I still remember that Sunday morning when my family gathered for brunch. The table was filled with food, laughter, and fake smiles. On the outside, everything looked perfect. But inside, it was anything but perfect. As soon as I walked in, I felt the heavy silence. My mother's sharp eyes scanned me, my brother rolled his eyes, and my father barely looked up from his phone. It wasn't new. I was used to being the invisible one. The one who carried the weight, but never the recognition. The conversation started as usual. My sister bragged about her new job, my brother cracked jokes, and my parents nodded proudly. I sat quietly, waiting for my turn, but it never came. When I finally tried to share something about my own life, my words were drowned in laughter about something else. I felt the familiar sting in my chest. That sting of being ignored, of being treated like I was less. It wasn't the first time. It had been happening for years, but that day it felt different. That day, something inside me broke. Flashbacks rushed into my mind. I remembered every time I had booked flights for family trips, making sure everyone reached safely while I stayed behind to take care of bills. I remembered nights when I worked late just so my brother could use my credit to buy things he didn't even need. I remembered the cabin by the lake that I had maintained all these years, paying for repairs, making it a home for everyone. And yet, nobody ever thanked me. They just enjoyed it as if it was theirs, as if my effort didn't matter. I thought about the countless times I cleaned up their messes, covered their debts, and listened to their problems. But when I needed help, when I needed someone to just listen, nobody was there. I was left alone with my pain, my stress, my silent tears. As I sat at that brunch table, watching them laugh and talk as if I didn't exist, I realized something. I wasn't just ignored. I was being used. My kindness had turned into their convenience. My sacrifices had become invisible. That was the moment I knew something had to change. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. After that brunch, I went back home, but my mind didn't stop replaying every little detail. The fake smiles, the way they dismissed me, the silence that burned louder than words. I sat on my bed staring at the wall, and for the first time, I admitted to myself that this wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a cycle. A cycle that had trapped me for years. Memories kept flooding in. I remembered birthdays where I planned everything but ended up sitting quietly while others took the credit. I remembered paying bills in secret so my family wouldn't lose electricity, while they never even knew who saved them. I remembered staying awake late at night, solving their problems, while nobody ever asked how I was doing. Every memory felt like a stone on my chest, each one heavier than the last. I realized that I wasn't just being left out. I was being depended on, exploited, and then forgotten the moment the job was done. I wasn't a daughter, a sister, or a friend in their eyes. I was just a resource. That night, I cried. Not because I was weak, but because I had been strong for too long. My tears weren't about sadness anymore. They were about release. Every drop felt like my body screaming to be free. To stop carrying weight that was never mine to carry. Lying there, I asked myself a question I had never dared to ask. What if I just stopped? What if I didn't pay the bills? What if I didn't maintain the cabin? What if I said no when they wanted my credit card, my time, my energy? What if I walked away? The thought scared me, but it also gave me peace. For the first time, I felt a glimpse of freedom. The idea that I could live for myself, not for them. The idea that I could exist without being tied to their endless demands. As I stared at the ceiling, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would start cutting ties. Slowly, carefully, but firmly. I would close the accounts. I would sell the cabin. I would demand back what was mine. And most importantly, I would no longer be silent. That night wasn't the end of my pain, but it was the beginning of my freedom. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calmness. It was as if the decision I made had already lifted a huge burden from my shoulders. For years, I had woken up thinking about what needed to be done for others. But that day, for the first time, I thought about what I needed to do for myself. I started with the smallest step. I called the bank and closed the joint account my parents had in my name. My hands were shaking, but when it was done, I felt stronger. One chain had been cut. One tie had been broken. Next, I called the maintenance company for the cabin. For years, I had been paying them quietly, keeping the place running for everyone's comfort. This time, I told them to cancel all future services. The cabin wasn't my responsibility anymore. If they wanted it, they could take care of it. Each action felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The fear was still there, whispering, "What will they say? What will they do?" But the freedom was louder. And for the first time, I chose to listen to the freedom. When the calls were done, I sat back and thought about my brother. The countless times I had let him use my credit card, watching the bills pile up while he laughed and lived carelessly. I sent him a message that was short and clear: "Pay what you owe me." No more excuses. I knew he would be angry. I knew there would be shouting, maybe even insults. But I didn't care anymore. For years, I had cared too much, and it had only broken me. Now, I was finally choosing myself over them. Later that evening, my phone started buzzing with calls. My mother, my father, my siblings, one after another. At first, I wanted to pick up, to explain, to defend myself. But then I realized I didn't owe them an explanation. I owed myself peace. So I put the phone down and let it ring. For the first time in my life, I chose silence. Not the silence of being ignored, but the silence of power. The silence of finally walking away. The days that followed were not easy. My family didn't stop calling, and messages kept pouring in. At times, the old me wanted to respond, to explain that I wasn't abandoning them, just protecting myself. But then I remembered all the nights I had cried alone while they enjoyed their lives without a single thought of me. Slowly, I began to feel lighter. I started reading books I had left unfinished for years. I walked outside without the constant pressure of waiting for someone's demands. And for the first time, The silence in my home wasn't painful, it was peaceful. Yes, there were moments of guilt. I would look at my phone and wonder if I was being cruel. But then I reminded myself, kindness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's self-destruction. And I had already destroyed myself long enough. Now, it was time to rebuild. One evening, I sat by the window and thought about everything I had endured. The insults, the neglect, the way they used me. And I realized something important. I had never truly been alone. I had myself. I had my strength. I had my story. And maybe, just maybe, sharing that story would help someone else find the courage to walk away from their own chains. Because not every family is loving, not every bond is sacred, and not every duty is worth sacrificing your soul. So to anyone watching this right now, remember this: you are not weak for choosing yourself. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are simply human, and you deserve peace. That is why I share these truths here, on my channel Twist in Truth. Every story is a lesson, every ending a new beginning. If this story touched your heart, then don't forget to subscribe and share. Because together, we can create a place where truth is not hidden, but spoken with courage. This is not just my story, it could be yours too. And if you ever feel alone, remember, you are stronger than you think.